Today is about data cloud planning, setup, and administration. When we talk about planning, it means where are we going to procure our data cloud instance? I should better go in here. Where are we going to procure our data cloud instance? How are we going to plan for an implementation? And then, of course, discussing about how you're going to integrate with at least Salesforce platforms. What are the different things that admin can do within Data Cloud, and a little bit information about data spaces. That's really the coverage for today. We have quite a few slides to cover. Data Cloud provisioning and topology, quite important topic, especially the provisioning part. What are the different capabilities we have within Data Cloud? And when I say Data Cloud capabilities, this is your capability of Data Cloud with CRM. So Data Cloud, if installed in the same org, you can utilize that in a Salesforce flow. Your authentication works the same, which is your login credentials. Your reports and your Salesforce standard reports and dashboards, and your S objects, standard or custom objects, can be utilized within Data Cloud, or the Data Cloud data can be utilized within Salesforce core. That means if I take an example of a Salesforce flow, uh, you have um, you have a record triggered flow where if anything is created or updated, you can perform certain activities with Salesforce core objects. When you enable Data Cloud in your instance, you'll see both the options. You can choose Salesforce object. You can also choose Data Cloud object. You can use Data Cloud data. You can query SQL. You can do an SQL on the Data Cloud data within flows. So flows are tightly coupled with Data Cloud objects and Data Cloud functionality. Reports and dashboards, you can create standard reports and dashboards using Data Cloud data. And of course, objects are being utilized bidirectionally. Data lake for storing ingested data and transforming capabilities. So Data Cloud stores the data into data lake. Either you bring your own lake, or you utilize the lake that's provided by Salesforce. API and integration with other Salesforce products. So you can integrate directly with Marketing Cloud, Commerce Cloud, integration via MuleSoft. There are a few more products that you can integrate directly. Any examples of core capabilities? I'll come to that in the next few slides. There are examples which we will discuss. I'll also show you like a practical difference by logging into one of the Salesforce instances which has Data Cloud. Options for Data Cloud provisioning. This is important. Where should you provision your Data Cloud? Now, there are two options: separate Data Cloud from your home org instance, or your Data Cloud is hosted in the same instance. This was a situation. The first situation was until the last 2 or 3 years. It is still relevant for some of the customers where you have complex integration, you have complex enterprises. Basically, let's say you have a Salesforce org, that's your CRM. You may have a simple implementation such as Sales Cloud or Service Cloud only. You may have a complex implementation. We have sales, service, financial services, or loyalty management, etc. So that's your Salesforce CRM instance. You can procure a data cloud on top of it. This can be a different instance altogether. Remember, the data from Salesforce to Data Cloud or CRM to Data Cloud is moving you using a connector. They are not sharing the same databases. So it doesn't matter in this approach or in this approach, you will still have a connector. Either way, it's not mentioned in here, but you'll still have a connector either way from here or here. So the data will still move from your Salesforce CRM to Data Cloud. The only difference is, do you want to procure a different instance altogether? That means your users will have a different login credentials. Your administrators have to manage two different instances, and that can be wise for certain reasons. In the next slide, we are going to discuss about it. It may not be wise for other customers. But that's one way of procuring a data cloud, which is outside your CRM instance. You're going about and buying a new instance altogether. In either way, you can see your data cloud, data lake is stored in a different in a different instance, or I would say outside of Salesforce, outside of Salesforce CRM instance. So that's a common thing for both the scenarios. These days, customers are really moving into this space if their enterprise allows. Previously, the data cloud projects usually started as a proof of concept when data cloud was CDP. Many of the customers didn't really want to impact their CRM in any way. Hence, they went ahead with a different Salesforce org, implemented CDP, and then find out the value proposition. That's not the case now anymore. Data Cloud is pretty mature. Salesforce has invested heavily, and customer like that's not the point of view anymore of starting a project with a proof of concept. So both the options are valid still. In the second option, you have a Salesforce org. Let's say you started with a Sales Cloud implementation, then you procured Service Cloud, you went in there, you procure loyalty, you may procure other industry clouds as well. Similar to that, you can procure Data Cloud. And again, Data Cloud, when your administrators, your users will have a single login credentials. As they log into sales and service, they log into the same instance and will be able to access Data Cloud as well. Again, if you see, there is a line drawn in here, which means the data cloud will still look like it's in the same instance. However, no matter where you are procuring data cloud, the data cloud are always hosted outside of your CRM. They have a different data center. They have a different endpoint. I'm going to show you that practically. But these are the two different approaches. Going with the same instance, that's the second one. Going with two different instances, that's the first one. Why would someone do that for the separate data cloud instances? You have multiple customer orgs present. So in the multi-org scenario, in the multi-org architecture, you have no choice but to select at least one as a data org or go with a new instance altogether. So in this case, customers do not really have a choice. They already have multiple Salesforce instances. Hence, they are going to choose one of them to procure data cloud, or they are going to go with a new instance. But either way, you have to manage integrations as well in such scenario. There are examples where your existing Salesforce instance is highly complex and customers, even partners and Salesforce do not really want to make it more complicated by bringing Data Cloud. Hence, they procure Data Cloud in a separate instance while managing integrations only. So you get a fresh org, you configure Data Cloud, it's only relevant for data cloud, no other purposes. That's how they can reduce some of the complexity in there. It's also directly related with your access. Let's say you do not want to give access to data cloud for other users for any reason. That can be managed by permission sets and permission set licenses, of course. But if there are more restrictions, mainly in terms of data regulations, you have to go with a different instance altogether. Data org administrators use different from data cloud admins. That's another point. May not be a strong point, but that's another point where you have different administrators or different users for managing your CRM and working on your CRM, working versus working on your data cloud. These 2 points are only relevant if there is a rigid need for the data cloud and CRM to be separate, for the users to not to log in and see each other's information, because whoever is logging in, some of them can be administrators. So if an administrator is log in, they have access to all the other clouds, sales, service, anything else that you have in. That is one of the reasons why you may go with two different instances. We have to keep in mind that if I go back in here, your data cloud is a feature license. It will still require you to have a Salesforce based licenses, which is sales or service. So any customers who go with a separate data cloud instance, there is an additional licensing cost. No matter how many users they are taking, 1, 2, 5, doesn't really matter. but those many users will actually be utilizing Data Cloud licenses, but also utilizing your platform licenses, which is your sales, service, etc. They need a profile, they need a user license to work with. That's an additional cost when it comes to two instances. It's not just about procuring Data Cloud, it's also about choosing what will be the base license for your users to log in and you basically be able to log into the system. Data orgs are highly customized. Again, if your data instances are highly customized, then there's no point bringing Data Cloud in. Now, these are the reasons why someone will go with a different instance. There are considerations with it, which are being eliminated at this point in time. If I was discussing this with you, let's say last year, July, last year, August, I'll of course be telling you that you have to create custom LWCs to be built on the data cloud to expose the data. It's an asterisk. We are going to talk about how this has been overcome now with new features, but we will come back to this point. Here, in this case, if the CRM and Data Cloud are connected together, basically it still gives you synergy to some extent. So from Data Cloud, you can do SQL queries in here. So there's no need for an integration to receive data from Data Cloud. You can do SQL queries similar to how you do for standard and custom objects. You have pre-built LWCs for you to drag and drop and start using that if your Data Cloud and CRM are in the same instance. That wasn't the case before Data Cloud 1, a new feature. In such scenarios, before August 2024, we had to do custom implementations to receive data. There's only very limited data that Data Cloud spits back to CRM in such scenario where you have two different instances. So if you want to bring data and visualize data into into your Salesforce CRM, we had to build custom LWCs and APIs to get the data, visualize the data in here. That was a drawback back then. This is not a drawback anymore. Again, there are limitations to it. We'll talk about the second one in a second. Then you have why should you go with a Data Cloud and CRM being hosted on the same instance? It can be as simple as you have a simple architecture and you have a single line of business where it's not complicated. You have just one Salesforce instance. It's not heavily customized. Even if it's customized, it's manageable by yourself and your team. Again, it's best to procure Data Cloud in the same instance. Customers' data present in a single org. If you do not have a multi-org strategy, again, it makes sense to keep it simple because if you're bringing Data Cloud into a new org, somehow you're trying to bring multi-org strategy in your enterprise. And it can be complex at times, especially from a DevOps and a management perspective. And out of the box Data Cloud LWCs and Data Cloud search capabilities, this is relevant now for both the scenarios. So you can, as I was mentioning, you can do SQL, you can bring standard, you can utilize standard LWCs that comes with Data Cloud. When you procure the Data Cloud in the same instance, even when you procure the Data Cloud in a different instance, that's possible now. That's not a limitation anymore. Considerations and limitations need to migrate data from data org to data lake API. That's the situation with any data cloud implementation. It's basically calling out that you have to configure a CRM connector, which we have to do anyways. The data lake is stored outside of core. In both the scenarios, the data lake or your data cloud will have a different data center. It's not the same data center as a Salesforce CRM. You have a transactional database data center, then you have a data lake data center. And this is a common thing for both of them, no matter if you're going with a single org or a multiple org. This is a limitation where Data Cloud can only connect with one marketing cloud instance. We're going to discuss this more in the topology, where we are discussing about one-to-N or N-to-one relationship from Salesforce Data Cloud to an external systems. Now, let's move to another important topic, which is your Data Cloud One. What does it do for your multi-org architecture? Now, keep in mind, Data Cloud One is useful for a multi-org architecture if you have a data cloud procured somewhere else, like the first scenario, or if you have multiple instances, then how Data Cloud One can help you um, get the best out of Data Cloud. So you have a connection between Data Cloud Home org and the companion org, which allows you to share metadata and data from Data Cloud to other orgs. That's quite important to note. So Data Cloud One shares metadata and data from Data Cloud one org to another org. I have screenshots. I'll share it with you in the next few slides. But most importantly, what happens in this case, I have procured Data Cloud in the same Salesforce instance. So you can see the name of the app is Data Cloud. Forget about our discussion on whether we'll procure it in a single instance or a multiple instance. Let's talk about much more complex scenarios where your customer already has 3 Salesforce instances. Maybe it's a region specific, maybe it's brand specific. There could be many reasons why we go with multiple instances, multi-org scenarios, but you have 3 Salesforce instances. In that case, you're not going to procure 3 different data clouds because that's not efficient and that's not effective, and that will not bring you what you're looking, which is unification. So previously, before Data Cloud One, we used to choose one org or a completely new org to procure Data Cloud. Then you go into Salesforce CRM connectors. You should be able to connect multiple Salesforce instances to get the data into your data cloud. So you're able to bring data from 3 different Salesforce CRMs into your data cloud, and you're able to perform unification, etc. But you're not able to send all that information back to your other 2 instances, like the limitations that I talked about. You cannot do SQL, you cannot bring LWCs standard, you have to do an API to get the instance. So in multi-org scenarios, the other 2 orgs suffered or had limited information or limited interaction with Data Cloud. With Data Cloud One, sharing the metadata and data changed all of it. Now, no matter your external instances will be able to get the same look and feel how you have in here. Previous to Data Cloud One, if I log into an instance like my second and third Salesforce instance, if I go to App Launcher, I couldn't see anything like Data Cloud because my Data Cloud wasn't procured there. That was acting just as an external system to feed data into Data Cloud. Right? So you didn't have any option to visualize data or to see the data or the metadata within the other 2 instances in case of multi-org scenario. So your one org where Data Cloud is hosted, that gets all the benefits. The other 2 orgs suffer because they are mainly acting as an external system to feed the data back into your data cloud. Data Cloud One is also a $0 SKU, but you still need to, purchase it and need to sign the contract. By default, every data cloud comes with 3 companion orgs. That means you're able to connect 3 more Salesforce instances besides where your Salesforce is already hosted. So you get 3 more companion orgs, and beyond that, you have feature license to purchase additional companion org. That's one of the feature licenses we discussed yesterday, where you have Data Cloud One, which is a $0 SKU right now. Then you have Data Cloud additional instances, which you can purchase by yourself. All right, empower data cloud capabilities. Again, seamlessly, you'll be able to enable multiple Salesforce orgs with customer 360 view throughout centralized data cloud. So your data cloud is centralized, but that information is copied over to other instances for utilizing them in flows, running SOQLs, using them in LWCs, epics, pretty much thinking like you have procured data cloud in each one of those instances. Accelerate data cloud implementation. Again, distribute data cloud data across multiple Salesforce orgs using intuitive, no-code point-and-click tools. Quite important. Previous to that, we can distribute the data to an extent. There was a limitation to it. Right now, you can, whatever you see in your home org, you'll be able to see that in your companion orgs as well. Equipped each org with Data Cloud Enhanced CRM. That's one of the terminology of Enhanced CRM with Data Cloud. You can leverage Data Cloud powered applications across multiple Salesforce orgs, again through centralized data. Enhanced means you'll see options within your Salesforce flows about Data Cloud. You'll see multiple options within your contact object to configure Data Cloud. There are many things that gets enabled when you have Data Cloud and Salesforce CRM in the same instance. That applies to Data Cloud One feature as well. Now, this is an example how it used to happen before and how it happens now with Data Cloud One. So previous to Data Cloud One, we used to have org where your Data Cloud is hosted. This used to have access to Data Cloud, your data spaces, your data lake. But if you look other two instances, Sales Standard Org2 or Org3, it only have very limited interaction. So there was a Connect API which shares you profile information, and you have data actions, which is your platform events. So only two things can come in here, right? You have Apex queues and flows. That's about it. You don't have visibility on the overall data cloud. You cannot run an SQL, and basically it's just an external system which is sending data and ingesting some level of data. That was a state before. That was a state, or that is still the state if someone or if your customer is using Salesforce CRM as a setup versus Data Cloud One. So now you have two options to connect with the Salesforce instance. One is using Data Cloud One companion connections, other is using Salesforce CRM. The example that I gave you is for a Salesforce CRM in here. Versus if you look at the Data Cloud One companion connection, you have the same instance org one where your data cloud is procured, you have data spaces, data lake, but now the companion connection copies this data and metadata into each of the orgs. So your org1 and org2 also have a copy of data cloud. That's called data cloud 1. You can choose what data spaces are coming down the line, but you can choose what kind of data you want to share with org2. So this is definitely 2, your blue and yellow, versus the org3 has blue and green. So your home org has capability to decide what goes into your companion orgs, your connection orgs. But this diagram makes a lot of difference where previously you were just sharing limited data back to the orgs. Now you're sharing complete data and metadata of data cloud from your home org to your connected orgs. And hence it comes with all the features of Data Cloud, which gets enabled into org2, org3, or your external companion orgs as well. This is a bit more digressive diagram for the same, a bit more detailed. The concept is similar where your org1 is where your data cloud is procured. You have multiple data spaces, you have data lake, you have used companion connection to connect the external instances, org2 and org3. Org2 again have Data Cloud 1, which is a replica of Data Cloud, both in terms of data and metadata. You are allowed to share limited spaces, limited data based on your use case with each of the instance. You can decide that. And these are all the features that it enables. Basically, any and every feature that your data cloud has will be replicated to Data Cloud One. That's very, very powerful compared to where we were before. Previously, we were just playing a role of an external source and sending and receiving data. With this change, Salesforce has truly made a huge change in Data Cloud, where it's it's a true multi-cloud implementation. Like you can envision a complex multi-cloud implementation with this feature, Data Cloud One. Now, let's talk about other connectors. So far we have talked about a connector with Salesforce CRM, which is a quite important one. There have been a lot of use cases where we have to bring data and surface onto CRM, how we can simplify it using Data Cloud One, how you can provision it, how you can confidently have a discussion with the customer on where to provision the Data Cloud. We have discussed that so far. Next, we are going to discuss about Data Cloud connectors, other connectors besides Salesforce CRM. So you have a connector with Marketing Cloud engagement. You have a connector with Marketing Cloud personalization. Salesforce CRM, of course, we have already discussed. B2C Commerce Cloud instance is also a standard connector where you just do point and click and you're able to connect. You have connectors with external file storage, such as Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage, Azure Buckets. You have connectors, or I would say mechanism to integrate with your website, mobile SDKs, or any other platform using ingestion API. Are you going to go into details for each of them? About topology. So your CRM connection, you can connect one CRM org to one data cloud org. That's possible. One-to-one connection. You can connect one CRM orgs to multiple data clouds orgs. That's possible. Your multiple CRM instances can be connected to one data cloud as well. So it's actually both. It's actually bidirectional. It's both ways: one-to-one, one-to-n, n-to-one. All three types of connections are possible between a Salesforce CRM and Data Cloud. This includes both your Salesforce CRM connector, also your Data Cloud One connector. The next is your external buckets, Amazon S3 connector. This is widely used with Data Cloud. We can ingest and activate data from and to through S3 bucket. So we can get the data and we can send the data back to Amazon S3 buckets. This is what we are going to do in our hands-on exercise as well. Your single data cloud can be connected to multiple S3 buckets, both inbound and outbound, and the vice versa is true as well, because S3 bucket is just a bucket. It can be utilized for any number of data clouds to ingest the data from Amazon and send the data back. So again, it's both ways, one-to-one, one-to-n, n-to-one. Your Google Cloud Storage can ingest the data from Data Cloud Storage. You have up to 5 Google Cloud Storages per data cloud that can be synced up on hourly basis. So there is some limitation with Google Cloud Storage versus Amazon S3 buckets. Marketing Cloud, you need administrative access within Marketing Cloud to perform the configuration. Your Marketing Cloud account should be defaulted to your enterprise ID, your topmost business unit. You can have one Marketing Cloud instance connected to one Data Cloud instance. You have one-to-one. You have one Marketing Cloud instance connected to multiple Data Cloud instance, 1:n. This is not possible, the last one, where you have multiple Marketing Cloud instances connected to one Data Cloud one. This still remains a limitation, where if you have multiple Marketing Cloud instances that cannot be connected to one Data Cloud instance directly using a standard integration, you can only do one connection. However, if you have middlewares, SFTPs, there are many ways how you can overcome this, this limitation. Out of the box, using connectors, you can only connect one data cloud instance to one marketing cloud instance. It's not a limitation of marketing cloud, it's a limitation of data cloud. Your marketing cloud can still connect with multiple data clouds. Standard features available in the home org. This is mainly again related to CRM. You'll be able to see data using a data explorer or a profile explorer. It'll make a lot more sense when we are doing this hands-on. You have Profile Explorer, Data Explorer, and Profile Explorer, basically to visualize the data within data from Data Cloud to anywhere outside. I'll have individuals in here. Yeah, so you have mechanism to view the data. That's a feature using Data Explorer or Profile Explorer. You have Lightning components, which we can customize, utilize into CRM, and then triggering platform events is also one of the features. Now, that's not only the feature for home org. I think that is incorrect. That's feature for home org and then your companion orgs as well. This is a comparison between what's available in the companion org versus what's available in your standard connection. I should probably bring this slide up with Data Cloud 1 discussion. Will definitely help everyone to understand a bit further. So the first is connects Data Cloud to Salesforce org. Both of them does, your Salesforce standard connector, your Data Cloud 1 companion connector. Allows Data Cloud to ingest the CRM data. Again, what does that? It's a basic functionality to get the data into into Data Cloud. Allows Data Cloud to sync metadata with Salesforce orgs. That's only possible with companion orgs. Allows connected org to use features powered by Data Cloud, like we discussed. Again, that's only in companion orgs. Allows connected orgs to access Data Cloud features in Data Cloud One app, the Data Cloud features. They can look at the Data Cloud, the configurations, etc. That's also available in companion orgs, and allows connected orgs to use Data Cloud data into platform features such as Epics and flows. That's also available in Data Cloud. So this slide is quite important for you to visualize and differentiate between your Salesforce standard connector, CRM connector versus your Data Cloud one. Now, Data Cloud initial configuration steps. How are we going to configure the Data Cloud once we have procured the data? Add Data Cloud or Marketing Cloud permission set to admin users. There are specific permission sets that we need to provide to admin users. We'll go through the permission sets as well. Assign appropriate Data Cloud permission sets to other users. Proceed with implementation, which is data ingestion, transformation, mapping, insight, segmentation, activation, and data action. Now, this is everything that we are going to do with Data Cloud. We're just going to break it down one at a time. Good. Coming back to the Data Cloud standard permission sets. Now, you of course need to be a system administrator to procure license, or I would say to assign the permission set to the relevant user that's needed. Within Data Cloud, you have two permission sets. You have Data Cloud admin and a Data Cloud user. You have marketing permission sets, which is your Data Cloud marketing admin, your marketing specialist, marketing manager, and data aware specialist. So marketing specialist and data aware specialist. Right, the marketing specific permission sets comes with an add-on license. If you have segmentation and activation add-on license, then only your marketing specific permission sets will be visible to you. By default, when you get Data Cloud, you get Data Cloud admin and Data Cloud user. If you have an additional add-on, you'll get these 4 more permission sets. Now, what's the intent of these permission sets is quite is very visually being added here. It's quite good. So Salesforce administrator can do a setup of Data Cloud, can manage the data spaces. That's about it. If you don't have access to Data Cloud permission sets, then you cannot do much of it except 2 or 3 things in Data Cloud. So system admin is limited to who get access to Data Cloud, performing basic Data Cloud setup, backend setup, not the front end, and managing the data spaces. If you have access to Data Cloud admin permission set, then of course these 2 features are not applicable to you unless you are a system administrator. But you can do pretty much a lot except segmentation. So you can configure the data cloud through and through, get the data in, transform the data, model the data, perform an identity resolution, which is unification, etc. and etc. The most important thing which you cannot do is activation and segmentation, because that's an additional feature license set. You have to buy an additional feature license. That's why segmentation and activation is not part of the data cloud admin. Even communications capping is not part of your data cloud admin unless you're a system administrator. Communication capping setup is mainly your how much you have earned and burned from your credit points point of view. That access is being given to system administrator. If you are both system administrator and data cloud admin, then yes, you can do both the things. The data cloud user can view a lot of information, cannot do anything. So think of it as a read-only user. They can review the review what you have set up. They can review the data that has been ingested, but they cannot take any action within data cloud. So they are just view-only users. Then if you have segmentation and an activation feature license, you get these 4 permission sets. Again, they all are focused either to marketing or data aware, like who the person who knows about data. If you look at the marketing admin, they can do quite a bit of information. They can get the data in, they cannot share the data, and they cannot segregate the data. If I scroll down, even the administrators will be able to, okay, the administrators will be able to segment the data. If you see in here, from a marketing point of view, the administrators can segment the data, your marketing cloud managers can segment the data, and your marketing specialist can segment but not activate the data. Segment is creating filters, activation is sending those filters to relevant platforms or emails or any other information. So segmentation, 3 out of 4 personas can do, or permission sets can do within your segmentation and activation licensing permission sets. Activation is only possible by 2, your administrators and your marketers. The others can see the activation, but they cannot take any action on that. And there is a lot which a data aware specialist can do because they know a lot about data. There is a lot which a marketing admin can do, but the other 2 profiles, the marketing manager and marketing specialist, marketing manager and marketing specialist are limited to the segmentation and activation. So they can see everything or much of the things, but the major purpose is to come in once the data is being structured, once the data is in gold state, they go in, they perform segmentation and activation, which is what they do. You have data cloud admin permission set, you have data cloud user, you have data aware specialist, marketer, and then, of course, these profiles are outside of Data Cloud, but they play an important role in Data Cloud implementations, which is your Salesforce CRM administrators and developers who knows about flows, epics, APIs, etc. Your data analysts and scientists who know about data and who can perform segmentation modeling, Tableau, anything else outside of Data Cloud. So the last 2 roles are not related to Data Cloud. They are outside of Data Cloud. They are moreover personas, not really permissions. We discussed about these 2 permission sets, the Data Cloud admin and your Data Cloud user, what they can do, your Data Cloud marketing administrator, your data aware specialist, your marketing specialist, and marketing manager. You need to uh, remember what comes with Data Cloud, what what is important but doesn't comes with Data Cloud, especially from a marketing perspective, segmentation and activation, and who are the personas who can do segmentation and activation is quite important. After that, you have packaging and data kits. How you have AppExchange apps in Salesforce where you can reduce the time to market by installing an app from AppExchange, utilize those features and configure them. Similar to that, Data Cloud also provides the capability of packaging and data kits. It's simply you have configured something within your Data Cloud and you want to you want to create a package out of it, share it with your customers, publish on AppExchange. That's all possible using the Salesforce standard packages as well as data kit packages from Data Cloud. It is used to copy the metadata from one data cloud to another data cloud. Now, with a standard package, we do get calculated insights, we do get S3 data streams, ingested APIs. There is a lot which we can put into the standard package with a data kit package. So there are ways to configure your data kit. Think of it, you have performed an end-to-end implementation, which can be reused by other customers. You're thinking more from a reusability perspective, not from a dedicated customer perspective. Let's say you're creating an AppExchange app, and you have performed a scenario where you have ingested data from CRM, from AWS, from 5 other different sources. You have done all that configuration, field mapping, transformations, identity resolution. You have done it all. Now, all you need to do is get all that information similar to how you create a Salesforce package, package it up, test it out, and you're ready to share it with the customer. Your customers, what you might have taken weeks to do, can replicate that or can install that and get up and running in days. If not in a day, then within a few days, 3 to 4 days. It shouldn't really take more than that to install and configure a package. That's really the value add-on which packaging and data kits bring in Data Cloud. What are the administrator responsibilities? Now they can create packages in Data Cloud for distribution. Um, they can create and manage flows in Data Cloud. We'll discuss about some of the things in at a later stage. Right now, it's important to remember is you can use flows to get the information of Data Cloud, like get the information of Data Cloud data and use that in your business processes. You can also use flows to orchestrate the Data Cloud activities, such as once you have ingest the data, you can perform a transformation on that data, you can perform a unification on that data, etc. So the Data Cloud activities are quite chained to each other. They are quite sequential. If you haven't ingested the data, you cannot transform it. So it's a linear path. Once you ingest the data, you transform it, and then you perform other activities. That's what it's trying to say. The Salesforce flows can orchestrate this process, and we are going to go into details of it in the next session. I'm also going to share a few links which are quite relevant and can help an actual implementation speed up. Your supported objects, your data streams, identity resolution, calculated insights, segment and activation for the chaining, for the orchestration. You also have supported flow actions where you can ingest the data from CRM and AWS. You can publish a calculated insight, trigger an identity resolution, publish a segment. Again, the first point talked about what you can do on a high level. The second point talked about what are the different objects that you have access to using flows. And the third talked about what are the different actions. So with flows, you can bring a certain information. Let's say your ingestion is complete, you're ready to trigger the next thing. Then you're ready to trigger the next thing. So it's not dependent on time, it's dependent on the action or completion of an action. You can have Salesforce reports and dashboards to be created within Data Cloud. These are standard Salesforce reports and dashboards. You can also have sharing rules. You can share the metadata as well as the data using sharing rules within Data Cloud. You can manage access to the Lightning record pages, and you can also manage access to your data spaces. This is more in terms of restricting what a user can see, even if they have access to Data Cloud, so that not all of your data or not all of your enterprise data is being exposed to the persons where it should not. Lightning Flow use cases in Data Cloud. This is going into a bit more detail on what we discussed before. I'll try to keep it high level. It will make a lot more sense when we are into implementation and probably halfway through our course. We'll come back and we'll touch base on it. But this slide is talking about the orchestration, where you're not relying on a time that you have. Let's say you have scheduled 8 a.m. for ingestion, you have scheduled 12 p.m. for transformation, 2 p.m. for identity resolution. That's not that can be a way, not ideal for some of the customers where they're getting the data regularly. For them, it's really about orchestration. As soon as the first part is finished, trigger the second. When the second is finished, trigger the third, and so on. So it's a chaining event which can be done using Salesforce flows. All right, we are into implementation approach now. um, Implementation approach, we are going to discuss about what as a consultant, what as a partner you will be doing in an implementation, where to focus on, and which areas are quite important. Now, from a phase, you have a data preparation phase, and then you have a data consumption phase. Preparation phase is your data cloud provisioning. You have to provision a data cloud, your data cloud ingestion. In between somewhere comes discovery and architecture, which we'll discuss in the next slide. So your discovery and architecture, but then you ingest the data, you perform the mapping, which is harmonizing. Again, ingest, harmonize, unify, and activate. That's really about it. So you ingest the data, you harmonize the data, you unify the data, and then you activate the data in various different formats. The first phase can be data preparation, where you're preparing for the data. And the second phase is your data consumption, where you're ready to send the data outside of data cloud for consumption by various external platforms. Now, during design and discovery phase, what's quite important and the sequence of it, identify why and what. It's very important to align with the customer, and I cannot emphasize on this enough, especially for products like Data Cloud, CPQ, to some extent field services, to some extent Commerce Cloud, where you have to define those user interfaces upfront. If your client do not have a lot of budget, or if they have a very strict target to go live, you need to understand what the customer wants to do, what are their use cases, why they have bought Data Cloud, what is motivating them, or what will give them the best return of investment. So why and what is quite important to start with in a discovery and design phase. There are other projects like sales and service, where we can run in a truly agile manner, where we can go and we can build things and then and improve upon them. Data cloud is certainly not one of them. I would say it is to some extent. You can of course improve on it, but it's important to know what we are doing clearly, and that will be described in the next few steps. Once we have defined why and what, why are we implementing Data Cloud? What is the customer trying to achieve? If we can get the use cases, that's good. The next thing is taxonomy, understanding, collecting the necessary attributes required for segmentation, aligning it with the Salesforce 360 data model, identifying gaps, designing any extended data model if necessary. So if you realize from first step to second step, we have gone into too much detail, where you're going in and trying to look at what are the different attributes that you need to achieve what the customer wants. That's the detail we have to go during the discovery sessions, because you cannot just configure and then at the last stage where you're sending the data out or performing a segmentation, you realize that you're missing key attributes and it is hindering you to perform the activity. That's why it's very important to know why and what. In our use cases, for instance, one of the scenarios was customers with high loyalty points and haven't purchased in the last 3 months. That use case gives me a clue that I need to bring loyalty points from somewhere along with the sales data. If I do not see that, then that's a red flag, and that's an attribute I need to go and look out for, from which system it is coming from, what is the frequency, etc. All those discussions will drive that. With that comes data audit, exploring available data sources, identifying required feeds, existing data relationships, or any integration that we need to establish, or relationship that we need to establish as part of integration. Again, building upon the same scenario, once you identify the use case, you identify the attributes, loyalty points, and sales orders. Sales order information was for me, or sales created date of sales order was for me, then going to a data audit and trying to understand from where this data can come across. Looking at the profile strategy, understanding the data points that we need to consolidate to create a unified individual or a unified profile, understanding your data, understanding which matching rule, which duplication rule will give you the best outcome. It's all done in discovery. In the next slide, when we look at the implementation, you'll realize it's heavy on discovery and architecture and quite light on configuration and testing. Computations, if we have to derive any necessary calculated insights, like customer lifetime value, total loyalty points, where that information is coming from. Do you have a data source? Do you have the related attributes from that information can be calculated? If no, then that's a red flag and we need to go and look out for the sources. And finally, value, clarifying the KPIs for the use case, establishing operating model, trying to understand how the ROI can be measured and can be improved upon. Tying the last one with the first one is quite important. And these discussions usually go hand in hand, understanding why a customer wants it, what the customer wants, and what value are they going to get out of it. That needs to be aligned, not just for Data Cloud, but for any implementation, for any discovery. That's quite important to drive success out of the project. Now, this is an illustrative timeline for the implementation approach and the steps involved, of the breakdown of tasks involved in it. Now, if you look, plan and architecture is taking somewhere about 6 to 7 weeks versus construct, um, validate, and deploy is minimal is taking 6 weeks, maximum is taking 7 weeks. So it's an equal amount of time that you're spending in planning an architecture with your development and delivery. That's because we have to be very decisive on what we are doing. Then we actually go ahead and do it. When we'll perform the hands-on, I'll try to bring this discussion again and again, and I'll try to make a point that how easy it is to do a configuration in Data Cloud. That makes it difficult for consultants not to realize the implications of it. Implications for your customer, to burn credits when you're not ready for testing, to burn credits with the wrong information of data. So it's quite easy to just go and configure, and that also poses a risk of doing things which we don't want to in Data Cloud or we are not ready for. That is why planning an architecture has an important space within Data Cloud projects. Now, in planning phase, certain things that you do as a customer that are highlighted in green, which is mainly platform training, or the ownership lies within the customer. That's, I would say, that what does the implementer do? Implementer can be a consultant, can be a partner, and what's the shared responsibility of both? Now, project kickoff and platform introduction, that's of course an implementer would do. The use case discovery is important, where we go and we ask questions as consultants. The client has to be prepared with the use cases or with the respective SMEs that can guide us through that process. It makes a lot more easier if the customer has done the pre-work, where they know what exactly, not even if exactly, they know the use cases that are best case for them that they want to pursue. If that is not the situation, then yes, the discovery can be longer, but that can be consulted as we go. It makes it a lot more easier if the customer has done some pre-work. If you are a consultant that is working for an organization who wants to implement Data Cloud for themselves, then that's a different discussion. You'll be involved in here, like since day one. Creating, doing a data discovery, trying to understand the use cases with the data is important. Having a discussion with multiple stakeholders, technical and functional and business, from one system to another systems. The use cases defines what other team members that you have to talk to. So if your use cases doesn't really has anything to do with websites, might as well not include the website team in the discoveries because it makes no sense for them at this point in time. Segmentation requirements. What are your segmentation requirements? We go into much more details to attribute level of if you're saying customers with high loyalty points, what does high loyalty points means? Is that 1,000? Is that a 5,000? Do you want to further segments customer within high loyalty points, 5,000 and above, 5,000 and below, anything above 1,000? Things as such we discuss in the segmentation requirements. And go into reporting and KPI requirements, we discuss about what sort of reportings can be supported within Salesforce, within CRM analytics, or we have to send the data outside of Data Cloud to for the customer to track and make sure that they're getting best out of the Data Cloud. The implementations that we have done or that we are going to do will meet a certain KPI. What is the matrix of that? Defining a success matrix in a sense is also a part of this planning session. Then identity matching. How are you going to understand your customer as one from 5 different platforms? Is that via first name, last name, email? Should we go more restrictive? Should we go least restrictive? Or what could be the consolidation rate? All such things we discuss in this in here. Then the architect phase comes in where we finalize the use case, and then we start documenting this in detail, where you're defining the roadmap, you're defining the activation use cases, your data governance, your data assessment and profiling, segmentation and identity resolution. If there's any calculation that needs to be done, developing it all as a blueprint, and finally getting a sign off. A sign off can be functional or technical depending on your customer and the team that they have. If the customer do not have any technical team, it's usually a functional sign-off for the use cases, the data sources, the attributes mapping, etc. If you have a technical team, then yes, this can be a bit more technical-driven discussion as well, where you get a functional sign-off as well as a technical sign-off. But once we finish the plan and architecture phase, then we go into construction and we step by step start configuring Data Cloud, starting from ingestion to data modeling to unification and finally activation. Planning QA is important as well. I'll try to touch base on this when we are doing a hands-on, that how quickly something that looks good can go wrong, and you can send incorrect information to customers that you didn't intend it to. It also depends, the testing also depends on your appetite level, in which industry you are in. You can definitely not make a mistake in a medical industry. The retail is much more flexible, so the matching rules will differ. The quality assurance time frame, the use cases will differ, but Data Cloud needs testing. That's very important. You need to test whether the matching rules that we have decided are working correctly or not, and that is being done in both the places in here, where we have a unit testing, but also during a detailed QA and UAT period. After that, we go into deployment, and of course, we went live. But the important part is planning and architecture. You have to focus a lot. You have to invest a lot of time, a lot of energy, create as detailed documentation as possible during planning and architecture phase. If we do that, we will have surprises. We will always have surprises during implementation, but the aim is to reduce the surprises to an acceptable level. If we are really high level during architecture and planning phase, we'll have to spend a lot of time in construct, and we have to do a lot of rework in here, which can mean more development hours, more administrative hours, but also it can impact your consumption rate. All right, and last one, data spaces. Now, you'll be able to relate if you have worked with Marketing Cloud. Data spaces are very similar to business units where you have logical segregation. Your data is still stored within Data Cloud. You just have logical segregation where because of multi-brand, multi-region, there can be many scenarios why you can use Data Cloud, but you have buckets where you can decide which data goes in and whom to give access to. That's a similar situation which we do in Marketing Cloud. We have business units and we store the data relevant to that particular business units based on geography, based on brand, based on any other criteria. Data spaces are similar, and you must have seen that in our data cloud one discussion as well, where you have data space 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are basically logical segregation of data. All the data is residing within the same data lake. It's just that the logical segregation of data has happened within data space. The logical segregation can happen because of a multi-brand, multi-region, or multi-department scenario, or if there are any other scenarios where you need to segregate the two data. I'll give an example of data spaces when we are doing hands-on, because it makes sense when we read about it, but it doesn't make sense when we look at the data cloud. We are not able to visualize it ourselves by how the data spaces will segregate the data. So when we are at that point, I'll try to give you a very quick demonstration of data spaces and how data spaces not just drives storing of the data, it drives everything, your ingestion, your transformation, your identity resolution, your unification, and your activation, all is dependent on the data space and all is limited to that particular data space. Enterprises can segregate data, metadata, and processes by data spaces, providing users more personalized experience. I think that's a very good presentation. Your data, your metadata, and your processes, all three of them are being segregated using a data space. Administrators can grant access to users for data spaces, making sure users can only operate on data for the brand and region they are part of. So each user can be given a data space. Similar to that, during integration, each companion org can be given a data space which they should have access to. When to use and when not to use a data space. Now, use a data space when you have a single data cloud org for multiple brands, multiple region, and multiple departments. That is an obvious scenario where you want to segregate the data, metadata, and processes for multiple brands, regions, and departments. Using data spaces makes sense. Brands, regions, departments need data and process segregation. It's the same thing. When not to use Data Cloud. Look, Data Cloud shouldn't be used when you're trying to build up a scenario across brand, region, department, and you need a unification for the scenario. Like let's say you're working for a customer. I'll give an example of that in a minute. You're working for a customer where you do not really need segregation of brands, even if there are multiple brands. If there are no brands, then it makes sense to stick with just one data space. Data space is not a data residency solution. Your data is still residing within the same data cloud. It's creating data spaces will create a logical separation. It is not a data residency resolution or solution. If you have multiple regions, it's best to check what's a data residency and procure data cloud accordingly. You may have to procure more than one data cloud if you are working in a multi-region scenario. Now, coming back to an example of where you should use a data space and where you should not, I worked for a customer who have multiple brands, and the brands are specific to a gender, that's male, female, and kids. They have three different brands, they have three different brandings altogether, but for Data Cloud, they didn't want it to consider it as a unification for just one person. They wanted a unification for a family per se. In that sense, they went ahead with just one brand, or I would say, sorry, one data space. They brought in information from the brand for male, for female, for kids, trying to unify, try to find the household information along with the individual information, and then try to market them in such a way. That was one use case where even though they had multiple brands, but they combined them all together to create a use case for them. There is another situation where you, of course, have multiple regions and you wanted to have different segmentation and activation. Your customer, like I might be a customer in Australia, I might be a customer in US, and they didn't really want to merge this data and give me a unique record for Neeraj across the world. That wasn't their use case. The use case was very region specific. I need to understand who Neeraj is within Australia, then within the United States, etc. And that was one reason why they went with multiple spaces. You can have a combination of it all as well. That is possible, where you have a data space and then you use the data across multiple data spaces. So in this scenario, you have the data, you have one data space for male, female, and kids. You can have another data space just for male, just for female, and just for kids. So that is also a possibility where if you want to do um, a common segmentation, that's possible, but there's nothing stopping you from doing an individualized segmentation as well, or individualized approach of identifying the customer. But data spaces should only be used when and if necessary. It can come with an additional licensing cost. You may have to buy additional data sources, data spaces from Salesforce. With our use cases, with our instances, we get to create multiple data spaces. I don't think there's any limitation in the development orgs that we will have.